Hi. Thanks for showing up. It's great. I mean, it was all kind of sudden for us, so it's something we could do. Tom was kind of a son of a bitch, but he was our son of a bitch, right? If you knew him at all, he was an interesting character. But one of the most generous people I've ever met. Probably one of the strongest reason that I stuck with Dom so long was because one day he was so pissed off when we worked at All Star. Clients were canceled last minute, and it wasn't because he was losing that client at that time. It was because that was an hour he could be helping somebody else. He needed his help, and nobody else did that. Nobody else cared that much, and he would put so much effort into it. He brought in equipment and training to people, and just gave so much of his time that he cared. He cared more than he let on. Right. Which it's pretty special human that way. So we had a lot of fun over the years. It's an interesting character, but very lovable. Anyways, anybody else want to?
Okay, I'll speak.
Okay.
Well, I got to know Dom because we had a lot of lunches together, first of all, and he always talked about wanting to improve training for all of us. I mean, he was very generous, buying all the equipment and giving us incentives, especially when he was a manager. Oh my goodness. My best story about him, how generous he is. He goes, okay, whoever is the highest producer in 3 months, you get this amount of money and you get dinner. I go, oh, dinner and money? My motivation, right? So I said, sign me up. And at the end, and I got rewarded, he goes, Maya, out of all people, I didn't think you were going to do it. Well, I just needed proper motivation, just like all our clients, right? Whether it's fitting into that special dress, or able to lift something, or balance with one leg to put their panties on. I mean, whatever your goal in life was, I had clients like that. They want to balance, and you use balance every day, right? But he was so generous once again by not the incentives of all the equipment, but our meetings weekly and motivating us and taking us out to eat and encouraging us. And yes, he was a pain in the ass, especially the time when this guy was jump roping in the training section, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, can you stop that? I have a clinical patient here." And so I went to the guy who was jump roping, and I said, "It's okay. Can you just move a little bit because there's no weight in this area, so just bounce a little bit if you don't mind." And he was cool with it, and everybody knew Dom. He has his way of, being very anal, having the place clean, no dust. We had to put everything away. But he was
in
awesome.
his proper place.
Yes, in his proper place. That's Dom. And then he kept talking about how beautiful his condo is and how stainless steel is just shiny. You can eat off of it. I go, well, I need to be invited so I can see it. He never invited us, but he talked about his place a lot. I said, well, I would love to see your place. Nope, never been invited.
You had like 13 different cleaners for that steel,
I
too.
know,
You tested them all out.
I know. But he was great. I missed him.
I want to know which one would work.
I remember Dom, and most of us from All Star originally, but he was always kind of an odd guy. I remember he would always spray his face with some kind of mist.
That's right.
I remember.
And I would kind of look at him like, hey, it's kind of a goofy guy. But I remember also one day he, kind of gave me my start in training. Is he took me under his wing and he kind of took me through a training session. I can remember the knowledge that he imparted on me that was just so encouraging and actually helped me, throughout my career quite a bit. And he was so generous not only with his stuff but like with his knowledge. He was always trying to get better at what he did. He was reading, studying, going to trainings, and he was the first one to give that knowledge to you and to his clients, and just a huge heart, and very glad he was in my life, and I know he touched a lot of you guys, and he was a lovable man and a great guy, and I'm glad everyone got here to celebrate him because he was a stud, a goofy stud, but my experience with that.
Rose Spring.
Yeah, he
I forgot about that.
just busted out. He might have been in a fanny pack.
Yeah, it might have been in a fanny pack. He had a fanny pack.
That's really funny.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I do remember.
Yeah.
My first time seeing Dom was I was training with Thomas, and I was on the ground stretching, and he was vacuuming around my body.
Probably upset that you weren't moving.
I remember I looked at you and I'm like, all right, roll over one side, like, all right, look behind me, and then roll over the other way, look behind me. And he didn't find it funny. I was laughing, and you were laughing, and he was just like, you know, damn people who are just grumbling. And I appreciated his cleanliness because, as we know, with All Star, that was not their strong suit.
No.
Cleaning and clients, but he took it to he took it to a very high level. All of his things were meticulously organized, cleaned, which I appreciated, you know, as a person who used it all. And at the time I wasn't training with him, but I would watch him with people, and he was his knowledge was just incredible. And everybody, you know, Thomas, you were a recipient, and Mayang, and you know, just of his everything that he would say. And then he had people, strangers, who would come over and like interrupt him, which he didn't like. You know, because when he was with somebody, he was with you. He didn't like to be interrupted, but you know, ask him a question about something because you know, he just could help people in a way that a lot of other people couldn't, with, you know, with physical impairments and whatnot. But and then when I was in need of him, and he was just incredible. He was so generous, and spent so much time figuring out what to do for me, and then also with my husband, who has Crohn's disease, who was sick at the time, and so he was like helping, you know, asking, giving, you know, just different things that he had read up the night before, and always just trying to help, you know, go the extra, not mile, but like 10 miles.
Yeah.
For people, and at that point, you know, he wasn't necessarily purchasing all the equipment the way he was on a, you know, kind of on a purchase frenzy when he was at All Star and beyond. But I can say, Thomas, that you were a naysayer of the red cord, but I initially, but but having used it for so long, I enjoy, you've used it too, in the Access. It's such an incredible, you've used the right word, for healing the back and hips and whatnot. It was just so different, and I couldn't believe that he spent as much as he did on that, but boy, did it really help people I often told him that he was unique, and I told him he was a unicorn, which I think he is. He was a unicorn. But I was in complete disbelief and denial when Thomas told me that he had passed away, because I knew, you know, he just stopped communicating, and he was in the hospital, which turned out probably as well as dead, and he wasn't planning on being in the hospital for as long as he was. Yeah, and I grieved and spent the winter just so sad. Yeah, and I really appreciate everybody, you know, sharing fun stories, and you know, Dom's wild past, but we didn't really know him in that way. But judging from his vast knowledge of musicians and concerts, that I don't know that there was an artist that he didn't see live.
He didn't get to see Elvis. He missed him.
Yeah, but
He was
not
in town. He didn't line for it. Something, I forget what.
But see,
sort
not
of-
for lack of trying, probably, because he was just.
He didn't know this would be the last chance.
See?
That's
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah. Yeah, but he truly, he was a special guy, and yeah, he could be crusty, and cantankerous, but he will be greatly missed by a lot of people.
So I met Dom through Equilibrium Fitness, and he actually helped me a lot. I had a rotated hip. He worked with me, and 3 weeks later, he took the measurement again, and it was perfect. And then he said he was going to help me with that pelvic tilt that I had, and we just didn't get the chance to do that. So had a lot of long talks. So one thing you guys may not know is that I told him the reason he has Facebook is because I told him you need Facebook. If you have a business, you need Facebook. A day later, he had Facebook. I recommended a book for him to read. A week later, he had not only bought the book, but read the whole thing. Just, he's a phenomenal person. And Henry Brashen sent me this, so I'm going to read it for you guys. Does anybody else know who Henry is?
Was he a client of
Yes.
Dom's?
He says, we all meet people through our lives that have had significant impact on us. Dom Biscardi is someone who had an incredible positive impact on me. Dang it. I first met Dom in the spring of 2011. I was new to the club where he worked as a trader. Can you guys read this?
Just a small.
Sure.
Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
Too small. That's exactly what's
Right. We all meet people throughout our lives that have had significant positive impact on us. Dom Biscardi is someone who had an incredible positive impact on me. I first met Dom in the spring of 2011. I was new to the club where he worked as a trainer. I would always see the training staff when I worked out. I had seen Dom and had observed the other trainers coming to him for advice and insight. I later found out all the great equipment used by the staff was Dom's, and everyone looked to Dom as the ultimate training authority. Dom treated them all with dignity and respect. One day I was doing sit-ups and I overheard Dom talking to a client. I could tell it was about me doing sit-ups. I thought he was going to pay me a compliment because I was doing so many. To the contrary, he told his client that the way I was doing sit-ups was wrong and could cause neck injuries. This was a guy I had to meet. The next day I introduced myself and found Dom to be charming, energetic, incredibly knowledgeable, humorous, and extremely helpful. Over the next several weeks he gave me free tips while waiting for his own client. He never once pushed his services on me, but I requested a series of trainings. I had worked with many trainers in the past, but not one was even close to the thoroughness Dom demonstrated, and they were good trainers. He examined me carefully to determine my strengths and weaknesses. He just didn't prescribe a training regimen without careful analysis. I was an avid runner and often had problems with tendonitis in my left knee. Sometimes it would last for months. Other trainers had treated the symptoms. Dom identified the causes, weak hips and glutes, and treated those. I have not had a problem since. In 2013, I had a bad fall skiing and tore most of the muscles of my left groin. Dom worked with me and designed activities that had me on the way to recovery quite soon. I use all the techniques Dom showed me and do the workouts religiously 5 times a week. When people ask me what I'm doing, I tell them I am doing my Doms. Dom often shared how well his clients were doing, and you could feel the genuine affection he had towards them. For example, he was thrilled with his 85-year-old client that was regularly working with him.
Yes.
How impressive is that? As much as he knew, he was always taking classes and reading up on the newest and latest techniques. It was exciting and fun to work with him. Also, I must say that he didn't just sign off once I paid the money. He genuinely cared and never rushed me through the workout. Though sometimes I had wished they ended sooner. I know there are many others who were fortunate to have Dom in their lives. He was a giver and really cared about his clients. I am blessed to have had Dom in my life. He was an inspiration. He will never be forgotten.
That's really sweet.
Oh, I'm just taking it back.
Dom's first clients at All Star, and I worked with him on and off right up to the end when he stopped working at All Star. And I remember when he had finished his program at Renton Vocational Tech, and he was like a brand new trainer, and I was going, well, am I starting to work with somebody who like has no experience and doesn't know anything? And it didn't take very long to figure out that, well, he knew a lot more than a brand new, graduate of the program. And Dom is in my life every single day, because if you go down into our basement where I do my workouts, you can just look around, and everything on the wall is something that Don suggested. So I probably have at least 20 piece of apparatus, equipment that was a Dom suggestion. And every day I get on my whole body vibration plate, which is recommended by Dom, and I do my stretching exercises religiously. The 8 exercises that Dom gave me years ago to keep my back in shape, and if I miss a few days, my back starts feeling a little funky, and if I don't miss a few days, I'm in great shape. My back is feeling really good. The one sort of fun thing I used to do when I go in to work out with him, because I was always reading things, is I would play a game with myself, where I'd go, okay, I'm going to talk to Dom and ask him questions about this other guy who I'd read, who had some great ideas for whatever it was I was focusing on, to see if Dom would listen. And I can tell you that he batted like 0 for 200 in terms of him being open to an idea that I was bringing him that somebody else thought of. Unlike you, which is you recommended a book and he went out and bought it, so there must have been something different between our relationship. But I miss him a lot, but he's still with me every day when I'm shaking on my whole body vibration.
That's awesome, Dale.
I bet you 8 years, long time, and some of my experiences are just the same. I was so impressed with the depth of his technical insight into the workings of the body, and all of the weightlifting techniques that I got from high school, from these boozer coaches that really didn't know. And it took him about 1.5 years to detrain me. Don't lift that way. Put your butt down. Get your all this stuff.
Yeah.
And through the course of it, I had a back surgery, and he showed me some exercises to do afterwards, and Bird Dog and some others. And shoot, I've gone probably 10, 12 years and never had a repeat incident even coming close to it. And I definitely attribute that to Dom and his emphasis on form. If you can't do it right, don't do it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed his East Coast dry humor. He was definitely an East Coast guy. We used to. I love classic rock and roll, and so we connected, immediately. And anyone who had been to Woodstock, I don't care what you did afterwards. That was a great starting point for a relationship. He's only one of 2 guys I ever knew who was there. But I really, so many people in a profession, they learn what they need to know to get doing their job, and it kind of stops there. It's every day is a little bit, a regurgitation of the same thing. But he was always reading, always going to these seminars and expanding his horizons and his depth of knowledge and all of the new equipment, the gadgets that he was getting. I just found it so stimulating, and it was just good seeing someone as well into his career and his age who was still had a young mind, and he did. He started seeing my son Joe, gosh, probably 10 years ago. I don't know. And unfortunately, Joe couldn't be here. He's back in Montana. He had all of his identification stolen, and he can't fly. And anyway, so we just talked on the phone, and he's got some remembrances that I want to just share with you. And he said, Dom, they're probably 30 years difference in age. He says, Dom was a friend. He said, a very good friend. He said, I could talk about anything with Dom, things that I wouldn't talk about with any of my other friends. We liked the same kind of music, even though we were probably 30 years apart in age. He says, Dom was one of the guys who could definitely get me out of a funk. And he inspired my son to push himself. Joe said that he felt like he could do anything physically when he was with Dom during those sessions. He helped me get clarity on so many things. What he'll miss most about Dom, just the time we spent together, how we would laugh, those 1-hour sessions, and Dom pushing me to my limits and knowing that I could always do more. He's probably one of the guys that, you know, excuse me, you really hope that your children develop really good friends outside the family. And for me, Dom was that guy for John. They just connected. If you were to look at the two, they have nothing in common. But once they got to know each other, they really appreciated and valued each other. And they'll be very missed.
Yeah, he loved Joe.
I think around 2008, I had graduated about a year prior from school in exercise science, and I had been working as a personal trainer. And when I met him, he was like, I'm going to offer you the best sign-on bonus. He's like, if you want to work here, he's like, I'm going to give you a $500 budget to go to Lululemon and buy whatever you want. And I was just like, holy shit, like nobody's ever offered me anything, let alone a whole new wardrobe for work. And so I thought about it, and I took him up on his offer, and I started working at All Star, and he was actually serious. I didn't think he would do it. And so he said, you go get whatever you want, and you bring me the receipt, and I'll reimburse you. And I ended up getting something for my fiance, and he was like, I'm going to pay for that too. And I was just like, holy shit, like who is this guy? I thought he was Mr. Moneybags at the time because I had never been treated like that before. And then after I started working at All Star, I started to realize that all of his equipment, or all of the equipment that we used, was his. And he helped me find the confidence in myself to be able to help other people. And I took that, and I then went and studied and became a doctor. And he's still with me every day when I treat patients. And working with orthopedic conditions, and Dom, he has a way of being able to see what the problem is and trying to, he's able to instantly figure out where that root of the problem is and treat that. And I'm so sad that he's gone and I didn't get to see him after I finished school, but I will carry it with me every day in his visits.
All Star, everybody, I didn't know about his road water, but everybody knew he was unique. And I had to be here today, and I'm so grateful to Lisa and all of you who put this together so we could say goodbye to him. Because it was a mystery to me to lose him so quickly. I mean, he was a special character in my own personal life, and I really love hearing what everybody says, but I think about the uniqueness of who he was and how much love you have to have for yourself to be able to be that unique. And I'm learning so much what he gave. And I also thought he was Moneybags. was what it was. But and as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about Dom, and the end of his name is Om. And I just have this fantasy and a wish that we could all just kind of say his name, but kind of extend the O. and just maybe he'll hear us. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example? Do you want to
Like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you think? Because I don't know.
Dom.
Yeah.
Ready?
Okay, let's go as long as we can.
All together.
Okay.
All right.
Dom.